Welcome to Thriver TV, the place to break free from narcissistic abuse with quantum tools and understandings. And it's a very hot, sweaty day in Melbourne, and I don't have air conditioning as yet, so I'm going to apologise in advance for sweating because I know it's going to happen. So let's get on to today's topic. One of the most devastating things about narcissistic abuse is how we berate and we build ourselves up after it. We feel so hoodwinked and gullible for falling for a narcissist. And we know that we've thrown so much of our life and years and resources and love down the drain on someone that wasn't even real. We end up working that out. And we hate the fact that we were living a life that wasn't even real. I want you to understand this right from the onset. Often, even more than having to forgive the narcissist, we have to forgive ourselves. And the irony is, unless we forgive ourselves, we can't forgive and be released from any of this. And we can't forgive the process and what happened to us. Which means that we can't take the gift and transform ourselves in any way, and therefore we still remain victimised. Which means living a life of continual victimisation and pain, which is not a life. Forgiving ourselves is such a big deal, and not doing so is such a hindrance to being in a position to experience real love. You see, if we can't forgive ourselves, we can't love ourselves, and then we're not capable of attracting and accepting real love from another either. Forgiving ourselves is such an integral part of the journey that Module 3 of the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program is specifically dedicated to this. I made sure that there was a whole module on this. And that module is what it's all about. Forgiving yourself and life for what you've been through. And the promise of that, once we do the inner work and release all of the trauma on that, is that we start to experience feelings of freedom, peace, and renewed inspiration for our life as a result of releasing those traumas, which is what Module 3 work is all about. And it puts us in a higher and a more powerful position to create real love in our life with a true self this time, rather than a false self. Okay, so I want to go quantum in this Thriver TV episode, and it begins with the understanding that the whole real game of true life and love is about oneness. Which means that you, life, and others are one, with you as the engine room of your entire experience. So our goal is integration with self, life, and others, not separation. And if we're out on our own emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, it means that we're not self-partnered. And then, as a reflection of this, life and source doesn't have our back, and then others are not going to deliver pleasant experiences either. And that was the fact with the narcissistic relationship we endured. We were severely cut off from all of it. And this was an extreme manifestation of being cut off from ourselves, which is self-abandoning and self-avoiding our own inner being, which we didn't realize we were doing. But we were. And not forgiving ourselves is even more of this. The most important relationship is between us and ourselves, and that absolutely includes forgiving ourselves. And please know, for the people who are religious, I'm not religious. Sorry, for the people that are anti-religion. And I know we have religious people and we have anti-religious people in this community. So for all of you, please know I'm not religious per se. I'm quantum, which means spiritual and scientific, and I embrace all of you no matter where your beliefs are. And to be quantumly positioned, it means looking at the spiritual scientific connection and even though we do that, yes, physical scientific proof is one thing, but all of us sense deep in ourselves a transcendence, a something that is greater than that we know logically or even scientifically, something that is so much bigger than all of us. Something, a consciousness, which may not be able to be physically or even scientifically defined. And it may be something that can't be scientifically proven. Some of quantum physics can, but much of quantum physics falls into this category. And when you start living your life from this place, then you will know the magic that is yours to be had. And some people call this life force, source, consciousness, God. But what happens is when we tap in at this kind of level, the real life truth starts becoming consistently irrefutable. And the Thriver path is full of this incredible magical proof, which includes the transcendence. It gives us the ability to forgive the unforgivable because we understand at a quantum level not just how that is possible, also that it is the only true quantum existence available. It's the only truth at a quantum level. We're going to go into that. This will explain more of it as this video progresses. And I acknowledge, as a result of my journey, and certainly not from a denominational religious perspective for me personally, that there is a higher power. There is a consciousness, which we can call God or creation. Some people call it just energy. I actually call it all of these things, and I acknowledge that until I had a relationship sorted with this higher power, that my life was actually rubbish. Literally. I felt doomed, punished and cursed. I thought the bad things in life were happening to me because for some reason this higher power didn't like me and was hurting me, and certainly couldn't forgive the bad, defective person that I was. And if this force couldn't love me and forgive me, how on earth could I love and forgive myself? Now I know that this is not true. It was actually never true. And this higher power had always been working for me and not against me, and had always adored me unconditionally, no matter who I was being. And this is so important for you to understand in relation to how I forgave myself and how you can forgive yourself. It's vital. Because the most powerful way to forgive yourself is this understanding, period. I didn't do anything wrong. In fact, given what I was seeking to evolve within me, I did everything right. And creation, source, God, whatever you want to call your higher power, was not punishing me at all. This force was delivering and calling forth to me exactly what was needed to come back home to my true self. Because you see, when we're in resistance, we judge it all. We say it was wrong, my choices were wrong, what happened with other people were wrong. And when people say, I have no idea why I had to go through that, and I've got no idea why I stayed in that, they're in wrong town. They're stuck in resistance. And this is a really big theme lately in the Thriver community. It's been coming up a lot. The understanding that when we dislike something, when we don't acknowledge it as blessed and divine, no matter what it looks like, we have no way of being released from it. Yet when we acknowledge and bless it as divine, then we accept it. And then we can extract the gifts and the higher learning, the evolution from who we were being to transform into our true self state. And then we're released from all aspects of the trauma and we graduate to a higher version of our true self. Let me give you a real life example of how perfect our choices were in narcissistic abuse. When we got hooked in and stayed, and when we got traumatized beyond description. I'm going to give you the example from the human limited version and then the higher consciousness soul version. Mercy was lonely. She had no trouble meeting men, but her friends told her she was too fussy. The men she liked were good looking, but were self-centered and they were nasty. However, when William sat next to her at a bar, she struck up a conversation with him when he said hello. And he was attractive and charming. He was attentive and interesting. Mercy thought all her Christmases had come at once, and before long they were in a serious relationship. But William was a narcissist. Mercy now had a life with William, dreams and plans, and the loneliness was gone because she had felt alive and worthy again, in stark contrast to how she'd felt when she was single. So she didn't want to let go of this relationship. However, the cracks deepened, the abuse intensified, and we all know how this goes. After 8 years and 2 children with William, Mercy was discarded for another woman. Her life was in tatters. Initially, as we all do, the human Mercy hated what had happened to her, and she blamed herself for so much and for how long she'd stayed in the relationship being abused. However, this is what her soul had to say about it. Her true self had never found her own source of love and life force. It had always been reliant on a man. Mercy had never tapped into her creative self or her unique contributions as the outpour of her own self-love and approval. And consequently, she'd never known authentic purpose and joy. Therefore, the experience of trying to obtain self through another had to be so painful and traumatic so that Mercy would finally let go, self-partner, clean up her original codependent fractures from childhood and become whole. Her children were further motivation to do this. Mercy did not want them to have the experience that she'd had. The human Mercy was so traumatized by the guilt and blaming herself for bringing her children into the experience of being co-parented with a narcissist. Yet her soul knew that the souls of her children had also purposefully chosen Mary and their father as a part of their unique evolution, growth and healing journey, and that it was all in perfect and divine order. So really, we have a choice. We can look at it from the limited human viewpoint, from our conscious mind that is only capable of processing 40 bits of information per second, or we can ascertain truths from our subconscious knowing, our soul gut, which processes a whopping 40 million bits of information per second. And we can even transcend into our superconscious knowing, which is that part of us which is life force, creation, source, God, which knows that there is never any mistakes and there is actually nothing even to forgive. Okay, so let's say this mantra together. Say it after me. Even though I believe I have made choices that have hurt myself and others, that are unforgivable, I now realize, claim and embody that these choices were exactly what my soul had deemed as perfect for me to come home to the next highest and most divine version of myself. Everything was and is in perfect creation, design, and order. For life and my soul to lovingly grant me everything I needed for my evolution. There is no wasted time, and there is nothing that is wrong. I also understand that everything that occurred to any other player in this cast of perfection was also the highest, most gracious event offered by their soul in concert with mine. And so it is. Amen. Okay, so that is the shift. And you may want to write that down, listen back, write it down and say it to yourself a few times. Let it sink through your cells. And please know, you may need to work at this. I know I did. I had to release a lot of trauma on this stuff to be able to fully embody it without toxicity in the way in my body. And you may need to release the trauma that is getting in the way of you being able to embody and be this higher truth. And as I previously mentioned, Module 3 in NARP is powerful for this. And it includes an extensive journaling process, which comes with that accompanying forgiveness ebook with that module. And as a combination, it is a step-by-step system to get this part of the journey done. And it's an important part of our healing journey. Okay, so if this resonated with you, and if you want to adopt the Thriver Quantum Way, and you want to expand your life and create true love for yourself, life, and others, we can take what I just shared with you to a much deeper level and so much more. And you can access that in my free 16-day recovery course, which you can link into by clicking the link at the top right of this video. So I really hope that's helped. And until the next Thriver TV episode, keep smiling, keep healing, and keep thriving, because there's nothing else to do. And I'm going to go down to the ocean and have a swim. It is so hot. Lots of love, everybody. Bye-bye.